Hello, everyone. Usually I pop on automatically, but no, not today. Hi, welcome to Symbaroum. Welcome to our Symbaroum stream. It's Wednesday. That's what we do on Wednesdays. Um, we are partway through the Witch Hammer, and by partway through, I mean, oh, it's so long. And this is episode 35, which seems astonishing, but don't worry, we're definitely almost a tenth of the way through Witch Hammer, if not a bit more than that. So there we go. There's an amazing range of reactions at the bottom of the screen, as some players don't know whether I'm serious or not. But there we go. All right, before we start introducing people and doing recaps and stuff, let's get through the old promo. If you check below this stream, you will see a number of links to YouTube and to Twitch. We're on both of those sites. Twitch is where we stream, and YouTube is where our stream videos can be found after the fact. So check both of those out. You can also check out links to our Discord, our Patreon, our social media. If those are things that intrigue you, then please do dabble in them. We currently run 3 campaigns on a weekly basis here on Twitch and then on YouTube. Wednesdays, obviously, Symbaroum. Mondays is Vason with Johnny and his merry folk horror crew. And then Thursdays, and this is almost out-of-date information, only about 26 hours it will be out of date, but Thursdays is the Cincinnati Chronicles, our World of Darkness anthology series. But tomorrow is the final episode. Tomorrow is Thursday, and that is when we do Cincinnati Chronicles, but that will soon come to an end. We'll then return to Pierre's big wet apocalyptic survival thing, and then after that, more things, secrets yet to come, tales to be told. Keep your eye on our schedule. We also run one-shots on a monthly basis, 1 or 2 of them a month. This month, in point of fact, Johnny will be treating us to his 3rd installment of Space Thulu Shenanigans on Sunday, the 20th of August. That's his sort of modern Call of Cthulhu in space age Call of Cthulhu stuff. You don't have to watch the previous ones, but if you do want to, they're on YouTube. And then the following weekend, Saturday, the 26th of August, I will be running Hell Knight, a Doom Biker TTRPG. So those are the things that we've got coming up. That's enough prattling from me about stuff. You're here for Symbaroum. Let's get you a little bit closer to that as we bring on Stephen. Stephen is our first player joining us tonight. Stephen plays Elindra, former Templar novice turned sellsword. Stephen, why don't you give us the good old meta recap? What's Witch Hammer all about, eh?
What's this Symbaroum business? What Witch Hammer is about seems to be essentially a gold rush, attempting to find the ancient city of Symbar, which kind of gives the game its name, I suppose, and specifically find the whereabouts of a woman called Elmendra that said that she had figured this out. We've followed a trail of clues. We've been up the River Malgamore and spoken to people and seen things and fought things at various kind of locations. I think we're getting towards the end of it. That we've got directions through tunnels under Carvasti. We've got an idea about a door that we're going to encounter there, how that works mechanically. We've got somebody who we've cut a deal with to give us some to give us essentially the passcode for that door, and we're about to go and sail to Yepharon Isle on Lake Volgoma, which is the place that we're going to find the location and instructions of how to get into this tunnel in the first place. So yes, that's what our party's been doing. That's been set against the backdrop of a what appears to be a war brewing.
Certainly,
between
escalation of tensions is certainly
yes,
that's an understatement.
Yeah, the Ambrians under the command of the Queen appear to be mustering for what looks like it may be some kind of attack on Carvasti.
Absolutely, which is terrifying. And also in the background of that, you've got the Templars seceding from the church. You've got
do that. Yeah.
barbarians also fighting each other. So it's interesting times.
It's been a whole thing.
And joining us for this whole thing is Chris. It's Chris. 1,000 times Chris. Chris plays Theo. There he is. Dignified older gentleman with a spear with an amazing story that's already been told 1,000 times. And also he's a bit grumpy. Chris, how's Theo feeling about Yeferon Isle?
Really sick and tired of living in interesting times, and then role playing living in interesting times during my scant free time. So thanks.
You're welcome.
I think I don't know how Steele's getting on. Steele sees in the future, because the group dynamics are that there are two people specifically who are kind of more into the whole protect the forest from interlopers because there's dangerous crap in there. And as of the fact that we're now not probably going to be on anyone's House of Lords honors list in terms of the Ambrian peoples, kind of a wedge has started to form between the two people kind of playing that particular team. So we'll have to see how that works out.
Yeah, absolutely. There's some it's not quite PvP yet, but it certainly could risk going that way if certain choices were taken, and we'll see what happens as and when that occurs. Okay, speaking of the other person in the party who's more willing to protect the forest than they are to ransack it, let's say hello to John. Hi, John.
Hello.
John plays Sir Aaron Dar, final noble son of House Dar, and cat fancier. How is Aaron Dar, John? How's he holding up with sailing and an island of horrors ahead of him?
I mean, I think those sound quite interesting, and he's all right with it, and he's survived so far, so he's obviously going to continue surviving because that is how it works.
Quantum hell, that's how it works. So yeah.
I think he's less worried about the Hell Isle than he is about many different powerful people trying to convince him to all do different things, because he is somewhat bamboozled, I think, by the conflicting loyalties going on.
I mean, no matter what he chooses, he'll definitely win, right? That's how that works.
He is definitely currently feeling like whatever he chooses, he's losing.
Yeah.
Mostly because 4 out of the 5 options mean treason, which for a noble is not great.
You could almost say that whoever wins, we lose. Aliens versus Predator.
It's a really big cultural touchstone for Symbaroum.
It's my main point of reference.
Yeah.
I would go into an extended ramble about that as a kind of a joke, but people are just staring at me more than they're staring at me already now, so I'm not going to bother.
If you just said predator, like I could have gone with that. Like you're in a forest, you're being hunted by something far more powerful than you. You've got to get to the chopper.
But Stephen, Predator does not have the tagline "Whoever wins, we lose."
I mean that's true. We're at an impasse here.
We are. There's just no way through this. The only possible way is to say hello to Sam, our final player for the evening. I loved the look of brief panic shock on his face. Sam plays Askarai, our resident changeling archer and scout. Sam, how's Askarai feeling about all the troubles in the world? I mean, their world, not our world.
Askarai's troubled by troubles in all worlds. I think
What's Askarai's position on Brexit?
He's strongly against.
Okay, good. I can carry on talking to him in my head.
Askari, I think maybe is the opposite of Arendar, where he's at this point very worried about Yefronal. The stories we've heard from it sound really, really bad, and also like we're coming from a period of being more like foresty traveling, and Askari is like a little bit more comfortable with that than maybe the rest of the party. So like has to, not put on a brave face, but knows he has to take that role. And now we're about to go sailing. The last time we went on a boat, it was terrible, and to a place where like parties have been absolutely destroyed, and that we don't really know how to find, and it just seems very bad. And this war stuff, Askari is like, they'll sort it out. They'll figure it out somehow. They'll kill each other. That doesn't affect me.
Fair enough. There is a certain safety in being far enough down or perceiving that you're far enough down the food chain, right?
Yeah.
And having the skills to just be able to disappear. And thankfully, it's not like you're known widely through this area now as one of the heroes of the sinkhole. That would be something that would definitely get in the way of Askari just keeping his head down.
That would be bad.
Yeah, absolutely. So with this in mind, and I'm going to do, I'm going to swap out that for a bit of this, or I won't. Hey, look at that. I'm having your problem, John. Did you stop having the problem when you switched to a full screen share?
No, I was already doing a full screen share. I fixed it by loading my images in Chrome as opposed to Windows Image Viewer and sharing it via Chrome tab.
I see. That's interesting.
Mm.
Well, let me try and redo this again. Otherwise, I'll do some form of your thing. Let's see.
Welcome to Telling Tales. We do TTRPG, actual plays, and also live StreamYard debugging.
If only we did, because that's not working either. Okay,
no.
let me just. Oh God, now I've got to get this in.
Send it over to me.
It's what I posted in Discord earlier today.
I'll be there in a jiffy.
Okay, so I'll start doing the thing of what happened last week. Essentially, we were on Karvosti, having returned from our trip to East Davokar, and you woke bright and early and happy, very happy, to find out that all the Ambrians were being exiled from the plateau, which seems like a bad thing. I should also say that you. Oh, well, this is the moment as well. Oh, it's all going wrong, folks. It's all going wrong. Where is the goddamn name of the new hireling? Is it Miramai? Malamai.
Malamai.
Yeah.
Malamai.
Yeah.
There we go. It was in my notes. So, exiled from Karvosti. You managed to talk to First Guard Farvan, who, because of your services to the High Chieftain before, basically persuaded that you are not in fact exiled from Karvosti and may be able to return, depending on circumstance, but they certainly weren't throwing you off there. As well as the Ambrians being cast off, you notice that the inhabitants of the Sun Church, who are now Templars, didn't seem to be being put into the same kind of exile. You also managed to acquire an audience with High Chieftain Tharaban. The first time you've encountered him directly, you went to see him in the grand environments of his High Chieftain's Hall. He seemed to greet you quite warmly and quite respectfully. You talked to him about a number of things. One of that was that the explanation that he didn't want to expel the inhabitants of the Sun Temple because he basically respected their religious access to this part of the plateau, and maybe it was also like it would be a much more harsh and personal thing to do to Ambria than just expelling their citizens. So you sense that it was kind of like a political / religious choice there. He also encouraged you that he seems to think that the gold rush on Symbar is probably not a good thing. And that essentially he sort of encouraged you to the point of view that purely by talking to him about it like this, it may well be considered treason. in high Ambrian circles already, a notion that Degesto also certainly seemed to possess after the audience. And the High Chieftain, in so many words, basically laid out that should you come back from under Carvosti with, although presumably he doesn't know it's under Carvosti, with the secrets.
I think he actually said that he was aware that we're going under Carvosti.
He may well.
He was very knowledgeable about what we were trying to do and how far we'd got. So.
I was trying to slightly pull a veil over that, but you're right. It was quite clear. Essentially, he was saying that you have option. You always have options of who you bring these things to. And he said it in no more explicit terms than that. But you definitely get the sense that he thinks that if you get what you're after, the Queen is going to come for you, one way or another. Either as, how wonderful that you did this for your Queen, gimme, or in a more aggressive sense, if she doesn't believe that you are going to present it to her. Other people, such as High Chief Tharaban, might be able to keep that information safe. It's another option on the table. What will you choose? As Sam says, no matter what you choose, everything will be safe. And you'll be fine. So, there we go. That was pretty much where we left off. You left the Carvosti to head south to Jakar and then on to Lake Volgoma. You also decided not to take the well-trodden path to Jakar, but instead cross straight through the forest to avoid kind of any political complications and just kind of stay under the radar a little bit. So there we go. All right. Yeah.
Cool. So we've just stepped off the path then, right?
Yep, absolutely. You are kind of basically striding through the forest. It's still relatively early in the morning, kind of maybe mid-morning or so. The weather is improving, but it's not yet, bright and summery.
Maybe a bit less buggy, though, now we're away from the river. I suppose we've been away from the river for a while.
You are heading towards the river, but other than that, yeah. Yeah.
The opposite of what you just said, but apart from that.
Yeah. Is it, are you heading through the forest in any particular way? You just kind of like trudging on roughly to the south until you hit the River Malgamore and then deal with that when you come to it?
So I suspect that there's more people travel this direct route than that. So there's probably a trail. I'm hoping we might pick up a trail.
Sorry, did you say you think more people will go straight?
I think that the number of people who go straight from Carvosti to Jakar without going via Archbridge or kind of the inland, actually measurably longer route is more than zero, to the extent where there might be some like hunters' trails or something we can pick up.
Yeah, that's maybe.
I think that depends a little on whether there is anything like west of Archbridge that constitutes a crossing of the Malgamore.
That would be what I'd say. It's hard to over exaggerate how much the places you can cross a river determined where people travel pre, there being bridges everywhere. But yeah, there certainly might be some trails or something that you can find, and I think that's a decent enough suggestion. Now, who in this group might be looking for things like hunters' trails and easy pathways?
Possibly Ascarai. I think even the trails of like animals, like if animals cross this river at some point, they'd leave trails through the forest. But
sure, yeah. So why don't you give me then either a vigilant or a cunning roll, your choice, and you're relatively familiar with this area. Take a +2 to it.
Okay, that's definitely gonna be vigilant. I just need under an 18. I got a 13.
Yeah, you know what? You are moving through the forest, you're finding they're mainly game trails, which would also be what the hunters would use. And yeah, the footing is relatively decent. The ground is only just starting to unfreeze, so the soil and mud underfoot isn't fully turned to mulch yet. So you're making a decent pace moving south. Absolutely. Are you trying in any way to? I'm assuming, given that your thinking going this way was to stay on the quiet and kind of hidden side of things. Pardon me. Are you trying to stay quiet?
I think we would be. Definitely not trying to avoid attract attention, even from people, but from whatever else we might be finding in the forest. So I think
We're not gleefully singing marching songs or anything.
Not Tom Bombadilling through the forest.
That's my new favorite verb.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I just briefly had in my head Steo kind of hey do a merry dolling his with his armor on, kind of skipping on his heels. Okay, well, in order to achieve that, I'm going to need one of you, and it doesn't matter which one of you, to succeed on a discreet roll. And by that, I don't mean you all roll discreet. By that, I just mean one of you needs to roll discreet and needs to succeed for the party to be, sort of quiet.
Probably do have the best discreet, but I don't mind if someone else wants to roll. I'm
all good with you doing it.
Okay. I'll
I
do
think
my best.
literally everyone else basically has discreet as their dump stat. So.
Unless you're willing to have Farron roll, I think it's going to be you.
I am not.
Okay. I need my discreet is 13. I rolled a 10, so I make it.
There we go. You definitely at various points through your journey, this first day of travel, kind of get the impression there are other people moving through the forest nearby. Not huge amounts of people, but like you kind of come across the trail of kind of like a group of maybe 5 or 6 people wearing shoes that you would guess are of Odav make, kind of traveling across your trail. But you never actually bump into anyone and manage to make your way through the trees without any incidents whatsoever. So the forest is close enough. I'm sorry, I've written a briefing thing here, and this first sentence makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. Around late afternoon on this first day of travel towards Jakar, the forest starts to open out a little bit. And ahead of you, you hear kind of like not the sound of rushing water, but the sound of sort of gurgling and water kind of running against things in its path. And quite quickly, the trees part, and ahead of you is a spot where the river mouth of where the Malgamore is flowing into Volgoma. The river is opening up significantly to the point where one reaches the as you are near the eastern shore of the lake, the other side of the river literally isn't visible from where you are because, I'll tell you why. Instead of the fast-flowing Malgamore you have further upstream, here there is a near stagnant expanse of sluggishly flowing water, scattered with trees and small patches of land. Some of those patches are just outcroppings with a couple of trees. Others are actual islands. While the motion of the water has slowed to a crawl, it does not look to be overly shallow. There are clouds of spring-spawned insects billowing over the water here and there, and a definite smell of decay and mud, even from higher up on the riverbank where you are.
You see, this is the problem I was putting off till tomorrow.
What time of day is it?
Late afternoon. You're probably a couple of hours away from the sun going down.
I think if possible, we get to cross now, then get dry, rather than crossing in the morning.
I'm just wondering whether we feel that it's crossable here at all, or whether we need to head upriver and either see if we can find a bridge or enough materials to build a raft that will get us across. Is there some kind of roll, Matt, that we can make to get some sense of how likely we are to die trying to cross this thing? Like, it doesn't sound good from the description, but
it seems unlikely that one would immediately perish from crossing here. But A, you don't know what, if anything, is lurking in the water. B, like you could definitely see like taking cuts and infections and stuff making your way across. The danger more than anything is the fact that how you going to get, like, it looks like it's maybe shallow enough to wade all the way across. Given the width of it, that would, you don't know how long that will take, so you can't see the opposite riverbank. That's not because it's over the fucking horizon, obviously. It's because it's hidden by these forests and just the landscape.
It's a long way, requiring a lot of stamina and some luck.
It will probably take at least 10 minutes to wade to the other side. How you do that without getting everything wet, all your supplies, all your food, not least of all your clothes. Anyone in heavier armor definitely doesn't want to wear it and go in there. Like, it's certainly possible, just very much not advisable.
Okay.
So what's the... Am I a lunatic for suggesting we just go up to the bridge?
That's plan B if we can't find a suitable crossing place further upriver. I don't like the look of it here. Like, if we have to head up to Arch Bridge, try and put some disguises on, and be there just long enough to cross the river and get off the path again, then I would rather do that than this. We work our way up the river. I don't know how far it is. Maybe it'll be nightfall when we get there. That will help.
Yeah, let's try and do it at night then. Get about a couple of miles upstream, maybe break for lunch or break for dinner, and then do the rest at night.
It does kind of defeat the purpose of coming this way for speed, though.
I think the purpose I suggested coming this way for was stealth, not speed, and crossing the bridge at night's probably the best we're going to get.
I mean, sure, like, yeah. It definitely won't. It'll definitely be a longer journey all round. From it's probably 2 days to Archbridge from where you've come now, because you've gone in an opposite direction to Archbridge.
Is there any way we could build some kind of raft, even if it's just for our equipment, that we could get across somehow while we swim or wade?
I mean, wood floats, but it's still.
That's
assuming nothing takes umbrage at us passing through its territory.
DeGesto is just coming up from the edge of the river where he's like hitched up his robe slightly and kind of sunk his foot like clear of its shoe into the water's edge, and kind of comes tromping back up the riverbank, shaking his head, saying, "Footing there is shit. We could do it, but..."
Right. Upriver. Best case scenario, we find a fording point. Worst case scenario, It's a long way around.
I can't imagine, with the river mouth being this deep, that there will be a ford anywhere near. If it's this deep and wide here, how is it going to be shallower upstream?
So it's this or 2 days to Ironbridge. Stonebridge.
Archbridge.
Archbridge.
If there were free bridges, would be sorted.
I mean, I could try a raft.
Even
What about-
if it's just for the rations and the herbal cures.
That's a much better. There's no way we're putting together a raft to get us across. It just a craft that can hold the weight. We might as well just walk to Archbridge.
If we got a raft that can hold the perishable equipment and that we can
And the armor.
maybe all tie ourselves to with a rope.
And the Meerkat.
Well, I mean, Ferrin might just be able to swim it. Ferrin might have less problem with this than any of us. So looking to Arendar and Ferrin.
Aaron kind of shrugs.
I guess
All
Aaron's
right.
got no way of knowing whether
No.
Ferrin's happy swimming. Yeah.
All right. DeGesto reaches into his pack and draws out a relatively hefty wood axe and throws it to Malamai and says, "All right, lad, let's see how handy you are with that." Malamai kind of nods and starts kind of looking at the trees nearby. He steps kind of towards one. DeGesto puts his hand lightly on his chest and says, No. This here. And kind of walks over to it and basically starts to talk about wood and how to find a good tree to chop down for these purposes.
So we're gonna make a swim for it before we lose the light then.
No town like the present.
If I could get a raft in a couple of hours, we'll find out.
I think this is doable.
Could we use the islands in a way? Instead of doing one big ford, maybe doing lots of smaller fords.
Yeah, I think that's gonna be the plan.
Yeah.
All right. Everyone who isn't chopping a tree down, i.e. you four, and Revelia can make the roll as well. Could all of you give me a vigilant roll, please?
Yep.
Of course.
Yeah.
So Arendar and Askarai, how did Elindra and Revelia do?
Elidra passed, Revelia failed.
Okay. Let's say that Steo and Revelia are stood with their backs to the river then. And the other three of you are kind of looking out. And all of you see at roughly the same time a group of individuals in 3 canoes who are kind of coming into view, traveling towards the lake, negotiating their way between islands.
Are they coming from upriver or from the other side?
Yeah, from upriver.
What do they look like? Are they wearing anything that might?
They're a bit of a distance now, but give me a cunning roll.
Yep, that's a 5.
They're dressed in fairly typical Odav villager clothing. They do not seem to be heavily armed.
Okay. Looks like a group of Odavs. They might help us get across for some Dala.
That is a lot less violent than the plan I had in mind.
Are you just going to murder random villagers and take their canoes?
I was going to suggest
Classic
it.
Elindra.
Oh, God.
Elidra is getting more evil by the session.
She doesn't do any of these things. Just thinks about doing them.
I'm just debating it in the marketplace of sadistic ideas.
yeah. They've got canoes. We could really do with canoes.
Yeah.
How do we get the canoes? And I like Askarai's plan better now I think of it.
I guess we would try and call out to them as once it seems they're in earshot or close enough.
Sure. You speak Odav, don't you, Asker? I mean, Anton does as well if need be, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
Antom's
if we
here,
have
right?
someone
Like,
who's here to
Yeah.
do it, it would be.
Hey, good people in the canoes.
The canoe, the kind of front canoe pauses a second. You can hear them kind of like shouting to each other at a relatively small distance from canoe to canoe, and the front one slowly kind of steers your way. You can see that very little of their motion is down to the water itself. Like, it's really not moving fast, and they're having to paddle considerably to kind of come over. The canoes they're in are quite similar, but better than the canoes you took upriver. They each have space for 4 people, and each of them have 2 or 3 people in. When it comes closer to you, you can see that the person who's kind of leading this canoe and seems to come over to you looks to be like the oldest man in the group, kind of an Odav man in his middle years with quite heavily oiled and braided grey beard, who sort of pushes himself up to his knees on the canoe and says, "Hello?"
Just a quick question before I start talking to them. Am I right in thinking that this would be quite close to where Ephanea's village was?
Ooh, I'd say you're ahead of me, but I prepped for this. Yes, it is. It is quite close. Yeah.
Okay, I will go back. We need to get across this river with. Is there any chance you could ferry us? We have friends. Maybe you know them. Ephanea and lives nearby here.
Oh, we know of Elder Ephanea. Aye.
We're friends with her niece.
It was her niece, yeah.
Okay. But
One moment, traveler. He seems to kind of be conferring with people in his boat. He waves for the second boat to kind of come over nearby and converse with them as well, and then turns around and says, "We may be able to help you. 2 conditions. 1, only one of you comes in each of our canoes at once.
okay. Sensible.
2, half a thaler each."
I look around the group, maybe translate. I don't know if needed.
yes, clearly yes.
DeGesto says, "It seems I'm not against taking the deal, but it's a bit of a steep price."
There are a lot of us. How many are we in total? Maybe
7 plus a
4,
cat.
5,
No, 8 plus a cat. I
6,
forgot about
7.
Anton because he's not here.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players. DeGesto is 6. Revelia is 7. And now Melamai is 8. Yes.
Oh, yeah, Yosefia not with us, is she? She gave us the information, but she's not
Correct.
coming on the.
No, she's got a hurt leg, right?
Yeah, that was it. She's coming into the tunnels with us. But okay. Yeah, 7 and a cat.
Yeah, including Malamai. It's You don't. They're probably not going to charge for the cat.
I guess I'll say back.
Before
What
5.
about three thaler in total? That seems fair.
Why don't you give? Let me just do the counting. Yeah. Why don't you give me a persuasion roll? But you know what? Take +1, +2, +3. Take a +4 to that.
Okay, it's still rough. Asgrad's not very persuasive. That's a 19, not a success.
That's not success. The man seems to consider it a moment and says, I think we'll stick to the 4 thaler if you can afford it, stranger." He's notably looking at your rather expensive looking cloak.
That's right. quietly curses. I guess we don't have much choice, guys. Not in
It's
much
that
of
or
a
swim.
bargaining
Come on,
position.
we'll cough up.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sure
Remember
you'll
when we had
put
100 Thaler?
When you had hundreds of Thala. He nods and kind of comes over and says, "The canoes will come to shore one at a time. One of you steps in. Weapons away, please."
Of course. Thank you very much.
Okay. Who is handing over the 3 Thala?
I'll pay. It's been a while since I put any money down for anything.
Okay. Who is going in first?
Askray, you better go. You can get the lay of the land on the far side.
Yeah, that's where has been talking to them at least. All right. I'll get in the first one.
Okay. You step in. The canoe kind of like definitely rocks a fair bit as you step in, but you kind of get the impression it's meant to, because none of anyone else seems particularly disturbed by it. But it almost feels more unsteady than the rougher canoes you were in upriver. But it's very clear from the small motions that the Odavs are making with their paddles that's because this is actually a nimble, practical, genuinely well-made craft. And not kind of like tourist canoe tat that was passed off to you immediately after being hewn out of the wood by the trader you dealt with in Archbridge. There are 3 Odavs in here with you, including the older man. There's a young, kind of like hefty woman sat at the back of the canoe, kind of sat up on the rim of it, and she has like a relatively hefty looking boar spear kind of laid across her knees and is not watching you in an unfriendly way, but definitely clearly has been told that her main job right now is to watch you.
That's where he'll keep his hands very like not in the air, but like on front, clearly
Sure.
visible.
Absolutely. They push away from the riverbank and start to paddle their way to the south to cross you over the Malgamore. It is, like I say, quite fast and nimble. The next canoe pulls in. Who's going second, maybe?
I think Alindra might go. Try and, again, secure the perimeter on the other side.
Sure. Secure the beachhead. The river head. No.
Sure.
Who's third? Let's just see who's going in this first party across. That's all. No reason.
I'm gonna hang around till kind of later on. Maybe I'll suggest maybe Degesto or something.
Degesto nods happily and kind of like shoulders his fire tube, which they look with some puzzlement at why he's carrying around a big hefty metal tube as a weapon. And the canoe definitely notably sinks a bit more with Degesto in it, and it pushes away. It only takes about 5 minutes to navigate through the wind of islands. They clearly know these patches and spurs of land quite well. They navigate through those, and before long, in the kind of slight haze of air over the relatively still waters of the river mouth, you can see the southern shore ahead of you. They glide up to it, help you out, and call that they will return with your fellows. And Askrai, Alindra, and Degesto are left on that south riverbank.
I guess we'd probably begin at least doing a quick scan of the area to make sure there's nothing immediately dangerous.
Sure, give me a vigilant roll. Keep asking Sam for vigilant rolls. Why bother?
Yeah, that's 4, so I make it.
Yeah, there is nothing to be concerned about in the immediate area.
Good.
For sure. And you know what? Probably, let's say, half an hour later, as the sky is starting to darken, you all find yourself on the southern riverbank of the Malgamore. The Odavs kind kind of the grey bearded one sort of tips his felt cap to you all slightly, wishes you all well, and they glide off towards the lake. A couple of them kind of looking back curiously at you.
We'd
That was a
probably
good
say,
day's work for them.
tell them to give our regards to Elder Ephania as they leave. Yeah, good luck for us.
That worked out well.
Let's get inland and a bit uphill and strike camp, I suppose.
Yeah,
Or
somewhere where the ground is a
There's
bit
no
more
reason
solid.
to march through the night to get to Jakar.
No, like that made sense if we were possibly going via Archbridge, but we may as well get a night's sleep.
Okay. So, with that in mind, you find a good camping point further up on the riverbank, where it's nice and dry. Yeah, you set up camp, and I'm not going to bother going through all your watch routine. We've established the practice that you do, unless you wanted to change it in any way. We'll just assume that that's what you're doing. Is there any kind of conversation or interaction we want to have overnight, or are we just sleeping up and waiting for the walk to Jakar in the morning?
Yeah, I don't think got anything
I think I'll
particular.
sleep this one, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Aaron will probably say something idly about how nice it is to find people on the path willing to do good deeds for reasonable prices. He'll mean it completely sincerely.
DeGusto nods and grumbles something about he still thinks it was a little pricey, but doesn't seem to generally.
It was either 2 days walk to Archbridge or it was drown.
Oh no, I am glad we took the deal. It was just a little pricey.
We've definitely found that generally people selling anything on rivers, a little bit of a markup.
Yeah, they had us in a bind.
That's what they call the high water mark.
All right. You wake the next morning. This is possibly the warmest day of the year so far. The river flies have definitely managed to find you even upon this ridge, and you get the feeling you want to move away from. Well, I mean, you're about to walk around the on the lake shore, right? So maybe you can't get away from water. But you definitely want to get away from this patch of particularly slightly stagnant water.
Yeah.
Okay. So as you travel a bit to the west and then to the south, it actually becomes quite easy to make your way. Before long, you find yourself on a relatively well-trodden path. It's scattered with small stones most of the way. Obviously, these have been brought here to make the footing better in this area. You have a vague memory of kind of walking paths similar to these when you went up to the Tomb of Dying Dreams a couple of years before this. And quite soon again, you start passing ODAV villages every maybe hour or so. You don't have the impression they've been laid out in, it's not one every hour, but clearly this is an area that's good for fishing or good for settlement in some other fashion. And you pass a few. You're used to, obviously everyone in the group, some more than others, are very used to dealing with the ODAV clan. And you can't help but notice you can't help but notice that you want to make a cunning roll, actually. So if anyone who feels they've had significant dealings with the ODAV want to make a cunning roll.
Yep.
So yes from Sam, yes from Chris, I think. Okay.
I failed for Alindra, and I figured that Revelia probably hasn't had as many dealings.
Sure.
I don't think Aaron's probably had that many
That's-
dealings with the ODAV.
Sure. I mean, if you've lived in Thistlehold for any amount of time, you have. But yeah.
I think, yeah, okay. That is a fail anyway.
Okay. Ascarai and Steo, you both note that the ODAVs you see seem warier than usual, and eye your weapons with some distrust.
Welcome round here's got a little frostier than last time.
Well, that might be the case all over.
I suppose you can't help them if the Queen marches the army in here. They're going to be on the front lines.
We're also a bit off the beaten track as Ambrians go. I don't think this path was built for us.
You even do find, as you go forward, that a couple of the ODAV villages that have kind of modest kind of stockades around them, the larger villages, as you approach, they close their gates.
Oh, well, that seals the deal then.
Ascarai and Steo, would you mind giving me a cunning rolls, please? No,
Nope.
never mind then. Never mind then. Would it have changed if I'd given you a +2? Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay, that's fine then. I think it should have had a +2. So, one of the villages you come to about halfway through the day that is larger than the others. One of the ones that's closed its gate to you, you're pretty sure is Ephanea's village.
Okay. I will point it out to Steo and Anton. I guess I think of the people who went there. Not as friendly as they were before, for sure.
Anton kind of glances up, kind of up the shore at it. The shore where you are here is mostly kind of like shale and pebbles, right? It's a stony shore, and Ephanea's village is kind of up on the slope leading up to the forest, kind of on the forest edge, but quite, maybe about 50 feet or so from the edge of the shore of Volgoma at its closest point. And he kind of looks up at it and said, I maybe thought we could do a bit of trade there and maybe say hello to Ephanea's aunt.
I guess they might let us in if we actually introduce ourselves.
I'm not sure it's worth disturbing their peace.
Yeah, I think there'll be plenty of trade in Jakar for what we can get of it.
Hopefully next time we pass through here, it's in better times and we can visit.
Oh, Ascarai.
And Tom nods, looking a little downcast, and I take it the group moves on. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so about time I probably described Volgoma a bit, because it's been a while since we've been back in this area. Volgoma as... John, do you want to bring up that map image again, just so we've got context of where we are? While we're at it, let's see if your mouse pointer works on StreamYard in a way that mine does not. How are we doing there? Okay. So, do you want to point at where you think you are, John? It does
My
not.
mouse cursor, because it's sharing via Chrome tab,
Right,
does not show up at all.
Okay, well, we can see Karvosti and Jakar kind of rough to the left of center there, can't we? And you are obviously relatively close to Jakar along that lakeshore now. As one, hey, there we go. Yeah, it works.
Oh, wow.
But definitely further south than that. You are kind of just north of Jakar. There we are. Yeah. As you can see, and as you can imagine, given the distances we're talking about, you cannot see the far side of Lake Volgoma from here, the western shore. That's not happening. Volgoma is a wide, very calm lake with a sort of slightly, as most water does, a kind of silver shimmer to its surface, especially in the sort of soft light of the spring sun. It looks very, very peaceful, with a certain air of foreboding over it. I mean, you could say the same thing of the edge of Davakar. You think that while it is a pleasant and beautiful wilderness, there is definitely an emphasis on the wilderness edge of it. And you wouldn't necessarily want to venture out onto the lake without someone who knew what they were doing. Okay. So, before we reach the end of the day, you start to hear people in the distance. You start to see the occasional boat drifting by. You even see some people coming back along the path. You are mostly Odavs who look at you a bit askew as you walk further towards Jakar. We've described Jakar before. It is a barbarian settlement, primarily of the Odavs, but with more than a few Zareks and Bayaga making their home there as well. Increasingly, and even more so than when you were last here, it has a significantly growing Ambrian influence. Many of the newer buildings, especially the ones you can see around the port, are built in an entirely Ambrian style. And the merchants' quarter and markets, which are now kind of spilling out further than the last time you were here, are thronged with Ambrians and Ambrian coin. The entire settlement, it doesn't have anything approaching a wall. So it's kind of just spilling out along the shore onto the lake and then further up the slope to a cleared area on the edge of the forest. It is bustling, as you can see, as you kind of round and have Jakar ahead of you, maybe a kilometer or so away.
Might get a chance to fence the rest of this Epicot.
Epicot?
Epcot Center, yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Etacop.
Etacop.
Just think of it like Atacop, but with an E.
I think you made this exact same joke the last time.
It's not a joke. It's the spelling of the word.
I don't understand.
We've never got this word wrong before, though, have we?
Look, I don't even think it's worth disguising ourselves around here.
No,
Really?
Yeah, like that horse is bolted. The best we got now is the fact that we're here a day earlier than we should be. And if we're lucky, we'll get away quickly as well.
I feel like the disguises were maybe good enough to get us off Karvosti quickly, but if we're trying to go around this town and do business, we would just make ourselves look shifty.
I can't do what I did on Karvosti for long enough, I think. I'd struggle to be disguised here, really.
If we do what we came to do, which is to find a boat and a crew for a reasonable price to take us out tomorrow morning, ideally, then it's unlikely to matter too much if we get recognized because we'll be gone.
Yeah, I think we should aim to find a Zarek captain, if possible, that's leaving as soon as possible.
Or the River Maiden if she's in.
So we start with the docks, see who we can find, and then it's like evening time, right? But like early evening.
Yeah, it's again, it's late afternoon.
Afternoon. Yeah.
I say we camp tonight as well. No hotels, no inns. Get out of town.
If we can charter a boat, maybe we could stay there.
Oh yeah.
True.
Yeah,
you know where we're going, Aaron. I suppose I remember the River Maiden. Ascarai, maybe? I
mean, vaguely. I think we just head to the... If we stuck on the coast, we'll find the port pretty easily. And
that leaves the Etacop then.
Maybe let's sort the boat first. They might just take it in exchange.
Yeah.
That's a great idea. Except last time I counted, that was near 30 thalers worth. I'd want the whole damn boat for that much money.
Also, bear in mind that once we've got to the west coast, we're going to have to probably charter a different boat out to the island. I thought that's what we were going to spend the Etacop on. I thought we were going to try Thala here, if we could.
Yeah. This is still Ambrian territory. Let's try Thaler. That's a good idea, Lindra.
Just so you
Is it
know,
though?
you said that you'd want the entire ship for 30 thaler, Chris. Just so you know, a galley is 1,000 thaler. So just
Steer wouldn't know that.
Steer would definitely know you can't buy a galley for 30 thaler. Yeah. Yeah. So okay. So from what I understand, then, and the market area is definitely basically you have to almost walk through the market as you arrive, or part of the market. If you wanted to search for somewhere to fence your Etacop, then you'd have to veer off and spend some time on that, and then it goes straight into the docks. Right, the docks are almost always in the town next to the marketplace, because why would they not be? So you can get to the docks pretty directly if that's where you want everyone to go at first.
I think so. I think the advantage of the Etacop that we haven't already sold is that it's not Thala, that it might be a good trading commodity for people that won't take Thala. So I don't think we're looking to sell it here unless it's in exchange for a ship. And even then, I'd rather do that on the other bank of the lake.
Yeah. Let's see what they're asking for, and if we can get it in Thala, we'll do it in Thala.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so you proceed kind of walking through the market, and as I can say, it is thriving. There is definitely an area between where you enter the market and the docks where there's kind of like market adjacent services, like there are some inns and kind of craftspeople, things like that. And after only a small amount of time traveling through this area, it will become distinctly apparent that the town has a very ugly mood indeed. More than once you pass a hostile confrontation between clanfolk and Ambrians, mostly just shouting or shoving. But outside a freshly built tavern, the corpses of 3 Ambrians lie in the mud, which is making for difficult footing under the early spring sun. Several townsfolk, both barbarian and Ambrian, stand around and are seemingly unsure what to do other than eyeing each other warily. You don't think any of them seem to be the culprits, but they also seem to not be interested in seeking out the town authorities.
There's not a reason to camp outside tonight, so
The arguments that we hear, do we get a sense of what they're about? Are they about the like war in general?
Give me a vigilant roll.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah. They are not personal arguments, although many of them seem to be, framed as such. But there is definitely a current of tension between the Ambrians in this town and the clanfolk. Population-wise, it's about 50-50. So
Probably not good.
Yeah.
It might be the case that a band of Ambrians looking for passage across the lake might be a harder thing to negotiate than we'd anticipated. As soon as we start asking around, everybody is going to know exactly what it is that we're trying to do. I am almost certain that word from Carvosti has got here. Definitely about the mustering forces and probably about Symbar.
Look,
I say that last one very quietly.
If the talk with the chieftain was anything to go by, it's pretty clear that half the forest knows our intentions better than we do. Trying to hide a sword is next to impossible when you have to keep it drawn.
The only, point in our favor is at least we're not asking for a boat to Yefron. We're saying we're visiting the Zareks.
That's
Maybe,
true.
Aaron, I think you said you knew some people that side. Maybe dropping their names makes it sound more legit that we might actually be heading to visit the Zareks than on our actual trip.
If I could find a friend of Elmea, question mark, looking at Matt. Her name was Elmea, wasn't it?
You got your character list. You don't need to ask me.
If I can perhaps find a friend
Yes,
of Elmea, I might be able to. Yes, it sound a bit more convincing. Or even if I could find Elmea.
You think she might be here?
I mean, she could be anywhere. She's a scout. But there's always a chance, maybe if she's staying close to home with the recent tensions.
Okay. Could be very helpful.
So,
You go.
so we walk to the docks. We see if we can find familiar faces or familiar ships, or we have to be careful in how we ask around, because everybody that we have a conversation with is going to know exactly what we're trying to do and quite possibly who we are, and that means they're going to know that we're trouble, and they're going to know that information about us has a value.
Are we still going through that? We're kind of passing through this area, going straight to the docks, right? Seeing what's happening down there. Okay. Well, the docks have a slightly less hostile atmosphere, mainly because they are extremely busy with a great many traders and travelers, most of whom seem to be trying to divest themselves of their goods. Those few who have done so successfully are leaving, and a steady stream of watercraft and caravans are noticeably departing from Jakar to both the south and the north. Anyone who feels they might be paying attention to this, give me a vigilant or a cunning roll, please.
Nope.
Yes.
Yep. How do you roll? Sorry, Sam. I clicked. No.
I failed.
Okay, Alindra and Steo, you note that basically almost all of the Ambrian-looking craft are traveling south, and the clansfolk traveling north.
They're literally drawing the battle lines. Look, you see that? All of the Ambrian boats are heading back up.
I'm not sure that I had imagined that we would take an Ambrian boat across this lake, but this makes it clear that if we're getting across, we're doing it.
And it does seem that so many people are leaving Jakar that basically a lot of people are having approximately the same idea you have, although with a different voyage in mind. So much so that berths currently seem to being auctioned off in a large, wide area in the center of the docks. And there are quite a number of merchants and traders there bidding for berths.
That's not good news.
No.
Oh God, if I have to spend 30 thaler on this, I'm going to be so angry.
Are the auctioned routes mostly to the south, or are they a mix?
It seems to be a mix from a brief listen to the auctioning.
Okay, so let's listen into the next auction that sounds like it's heading north, and just find out how much berths go for.
Yeah, and see if we hear any going to Zarek territory.
Yeah,
we'll have to start bidding.
Yeah, but before then, just try and get a sense of what we're letting ourselves in for, right?
Well, for the current auction that's happening, which isn't over yet, it seems to be relatively slow paced. seems to be some Biaga merchants who are currently bidding. You know what? Actually, they're bidding in goods, so it's quite hard to tell rather than Thala. But you would estimate that they are proposing a voyage to the north shore of Volgoma, and it's seeming to be costing them. Let's actually think about the goods they might be using here, because that's fun. Although I doubt actually maybe goods are a thing that's in the particular.
No, there's trade goods in the advanced player guide.
Oh, and how much is it?
What do you mean?
How much is a trade good?
I think there's different trade goods.
No,
It
how much
depends.
is? You misunderstand me, John. How much is a trade good?
That depends on whether or not you can trade good.
What page is it on?
131.
Cool. Okay. No, yeah, this is useful. Okay, yeah. Yeah, that seems reasonable. One of the traders for a party of 5 is offering currently offering 30 iron bars. Do you want to know how much 30 iron bars adds up to, Chris?
I
Oh
certainly
no!
do.
30 Thala.
Oh, I
That's
get it.
That's for 5.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Except I
turns
bet
out
that
when-
30 iron bars are worth more than 30 Thala in this auction. Because who wants Thala to go north?
Yeah.
Also,
So-
feels like iron might be in quite high demand right now.
Turns out when you can ferry people away from an impending war zone, they exploit them for it.
Whatever
So,
price
there we
is.
go.
So
As you're standing here, obviously there's more to the docks than this auction, right? If you want, you can kind of like you've only just arrived and kind of looked around and got the sense of the place. If people want, they can go look and try and pick up more stuff or whatever, but you know, it's up to people what they can do.
So, assuming we're having a little huddle to talk about that price, and I don't want, unless anyone else wants to play it out, I think Steve's just going to spit some feathers, and might peel off from the group to go and just take a look at the harbor and see if he can spot the River Maiden.
Sure. Is there anyone else going to do anything in particular?
do we want one of us to stand in the auctions in case there is one that's going exactly where we need to go, and we can bid the Etta Cup?
Whoever is scrolling their mouse is very audible, by the way.
Sorry, that was me.
I guess we could. Okay, let's think. What price would we be willing to pay as a group to get to where we're trying to go? And then whoever's left to do the bidding can bid up to that price. And if it's
if 30 iron bars takes 5 people north, we've got 7 people.
8.
And 8? 7 people and a cat. Is it?
No,
or is it 8
no,
people?
No, 8 people and a cat. We calculated it earlier. It's 8. Trust us.
Okay.
There's 5 player characters: Degesto, Revelia, and now Malamai.
Right. Okay. We don't have anything except the Etta Cup and maybe some Thala to sweeten the deal. But if that gets us on the lake tonight or first thing tomorrow, then
I have a total of 20 Thala.
I have 16 and this sword hilt that we pulled from the ruins. But I don't know who's going to be trading in ruined treasure at a time like this.
Yeah, Etiquette is one thing, but hey, we pulled this thing from a ruin. It's probably not a good look right now.
No.
If you would like, I don't know the River Maiden. I don't know the people. I am no use walking further down the docks, but I will stand here with a bag of Etiquette and as many thaler as you think I might need, and wait to see if there's an auction that comes up where we're going, while the rest of you go look.
I've had some experience in auctions. I'll stay with you.
Okay.
I'd say if we can get passage over there for 40 thaler for all of us, then go for it. I mean, it's hard, or like the equivalent between Ethicop and thaler. I mean, I don't know what we're going to do otherwise.
We thought the Etiquette was worth 31. I want to save it, ideally, but
yeah.
I have 8 thaler on me, and I have the bag of Etiquette, and if that's enough, that's enough.
Yeah. Okay. Well, while Indra is doing that, Arindar and Askarai, are you planning on doing anything?
I was thinking if you two are planning on going to find the River Maiden, perhaps myself and Father Anton as a translator could maybe visit any ships with Zarek colors and see whether 1,000,000 to 1 chance Elmea is aboard, but more likely we can convince them that we're going to visit a friend with the Zareks.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah.
Maybe, I mean, we can't do this in the auction, but for any captains or ships we talk to directly, maybe we can emphasize that we're good fighters. We can help keep them safe. Seems like something that might be valuable that isn't thaler right now.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Yeah. All right then. Okay. So the first thing, let's go with Steo and Askarai then, who seem to be wandering off to kind of look at the docks and see if there's anything noteworthy there, anything they recognize. Both of you, first off, could you give me a vigilant roll at -4, please? Ooh. It's a no for either of you. Okay, then. You, as you wander along the docks, you definitely do not see the River Maiden. And everything just seems to be more craft leaving, kind of very few pulling in. Some are kind of unloading shipments that seem to be kind of pushing onto the marketplaces quite quickly. The only other thing that you see is that some clansfolk, mainly in leather and furs and wearing their hair and beards in thick braids that mark them out as Byaga, are arguing with a small band of Ambrians who seem unhappy with boarding their small ship.
The Ambrians seem unhappy to be boarding the Byaga ship.
Mm-hmm.
I'll kind of give Askarai a nudge and go, "Can you speak that one?"
Not really. I mean, looks like they all talk Ambrian, though.
I mean, they are arguing in Ambrian with the Ambrians.
Okay.
Just might be able to, if they don't want to go on the boat, I'm sure we'd be happy to.
Sure, though we don't know where it's going.
Yeah.
Bit
eavesdropping?
Yeah.
Sure. From loitering nearby, you can tell it's they're kind of generally unhappy with the conditions aboard the ship, which don't seem to have been what they thought they were paying coin for. But they're also specifically unhappy with that a bear is being left free to roam the deck. They seem to be on the verge of kind of like essentially pulling out of some kind of contract they have with these Byaga.
It could be an opportunity. Maybe we can. Is there any like Byaga who seems to be involved with the boat but is not part of?
Yeah, sure. There's a couple kind of sailors standing by. They seem more amused than anything by the kind of like outrage of these Ambrians.
Maybe we'll go up to them, to the sailors who are a bit apart, and
they kind of just watch you approach with a kind of quite a direct, heavy stare, which Askrai, you are more than aware is absolute standard operating procedure for a Bayaga clansman with a large axe hanging from their hip.
Okay. Hey, friends. Where are you sailing to?
The lake. Where else?
We're quite interested in traveling the lake ourselves, but we'd like to head to the, I guess, northwest shore.
The Bayaga purses his lips, sort of looks you both up and down, and calls out, "Lorex!" The person who's evidently the captain, taller and broader than everyone else, with just large, almost like a plumage of furs coming from his shoulders halfway down his back, turns around. The individual you're talking to says something to him in Bayaga, and the captain says, "You see, these other Ambrians are happy.
Sorry,
But our companion is on the deck. Maybe they will take your berths." The Ambrians kind of look over at you, visibly traders, and sort of start huffing and kind of like they still seem on the verge of pulling out, but also this is clearly like a sort of tense situation, which they feel like the Bayaga should be treating more seriously than they actually are.
This may end up a deception roll, but I'm kind of going to lean into it anyway. Yeah, we've worked with the Bayaga before. Your bears are generally quite well trained. We've only seen one cause great harm to an Ambrian once.
Could you make me a persuade -3 roll, please, Theo?
This is a 4 or under, and I'm tempted to spend XP on it. Oh, he rolled a 2! Steal!
There is a momentary pause after you say that, and one of it's clearly like a merchant family, and as you say that, a kind of younger girl who's looking quite definitely fancy for the Jacquard docks in quite a nice, clearly kind of like tailored dress, tugs on the older man's sleeve and says, Father! And the butcher goes, No, it's off. The deal's off. And they all start kind of like picking up their wares and walking away. Several Bayaga on the top deck start jeering at them as they do so. And one even throws what looks to be a fish head at them as they start to walk off. This Captain Lorex strides over to you and kind of runs one hand down his long beard his beard is braided all the way to his knees, and says, "How much?"
8 of us going to the Zarek in the northwest.
How much do you offer?
How much do you want? You're the captain.
I want to see what you think it's worth. Where are you going?
Northwest. We've
To
got
the shore?
to the shore, yeah.
We'll take
Any
you
of the
to...
Zarek, any of the Zarek trading towns would do us fantastic.
Aye, we can take you there. We can take you all the way to Zarek country. What is it worth?
We have half a bag of Etikop, maybe some Fowler.
Half a bag of Etikop is telling me nothing. Some Thaler is telling me nothing.
We
Give me a number. We will take your Ambrian money. Give me a
30,
number.
30 thaler.
30 thaler. 8 of you. My grandmother would be rolling in her grave.
We won't complain about the
35.
bear, though.
35. Yeah, are you all warriors? He points to your weapons.
Yes.
Well, those blades might come in handy. 35.
I think that might be agreeable, but we need to talk to our companions.
You go talk.
Okay.
We'll head back, so.
As you walk off, he calls, "We on more before nightfall."
We'll be fast.
Okay. Doesn't seem too bad. I'll say to
It's
Steve as
bloody
we're walking
awful,
up.
but it's the best we're going to get.
Seems better than we'd get in the auction.
A whole boat for 35 thaler. I want a whole boat and a flipping pony.
Steve has an odd perception of the Ambrian economy. So back near the auction, Arendar, you were looking around for anyone of Zarek extraction who you could maybe talk to and maybe kind of swing something with. Why don't you give me, please, a first off, I would like a general vigilant roll for you. And then I would also like a roll of cunning at -5.
So my vigilant target is 5. And I rolled 19.
Mm-hmm.
And my cunning is normally a 7, so that's a target of 2, which is a 16.
Okay. I'm also happy with you know what? DeGesto says he was staying at the auction. Where do you, Elindra, do you think you might have ordered Revelia to do any particular thing?
I think between the three plans to acquire a boat, she would probably stick with the auction. I mean, she was literally carrying the bag of Etacop, so
yeah. Well, you know what? I think. And you've gone with Anton as well, haven't you? Well, let's use Anton first, Arendar. So Mike did leave us his character sheet. So if you could have an open of that, and give me that cunning roll first.
Let me just find his sheet. Come on. Open. It's not here, and Anton is still awkward. Did you say cunning first?
I did say cunning first. And yeah, at a -5. So that's a 6 or less.
It was a 7.
Well, you know what? Why not? I will give you one more chance at it. I will give you Malamai as well. I don't know what his cunning is off the top of my head. But I think he's, make the same roll again. Give me another roll at
6 or below.
6 or below, yeah.
3.
Well then. So the vigilant roll is failed. You can't see, you don't immediately see any Zarek ships or anything like that as you start to walk towards the docks and Seven. So you can see a lot of the docks and the jetties, quayside docks is a fine word. The piers from where you are. But as you do so, you feel a kind of slight hand on your shoulder, and Malamai is standing there and says, "Sadar, am I right in saying that Zareks wear face paint?"
Correct.
It's brightly coloured. Are those Zarek's? He points over at near the auction. In fact, you almost walked past them on the way you were coming, but several Zarek are gathered, clustered near the birth auction, and seem to be examining the crowd closely. If observed for a while, as you could do, and if you feel you would do this, then Malamai will tell you what he thinks. They seem to be examining which prospective passengers are well armed and discussing them with interest. They seem to be paying more attention to well armed passengers, therefore perhaps discussing prospectively reaching a deal with them, which seems odd, since many captains would consider well armed passengers to be something of a risk.
Very good work, Malamai.
Thank you, Sadar.
My
father has had some dealings with Zarek. He told me about the face paint.
I believe they're not the only tribe to wear face paint, but you are correct on the colours.
It is very distinct in the southern clans, certainly.
I want to say in my head it's like white,
Seem to be
orange,
the
and
colours.
something.
Some of it's mainly orange, green, and blue.
Ah, that was it.
With a bit of white. Yeah. Are you kind of going over to discuss it with them? Sure. They, as I say, they are standing as a group, and as you approach them, one of them, a tall woman with kind of tied back, long red hair, kind of gives you a fairly friendly nod as you approach.
Good evening, my friends. Do any of you speak Ambrian, or would my friend here be able to translate?
No. Please speak Ambrian with us. It is better than hearing Ambrian speak Zarek.
I can understand. I know you have some interest in prospective passengers. Would that be a fair conclusion?
Not so much passengers. We are traveling home, and we do not trust the safety of the open waters of Volgoma in these months. When winter breaks, people leave their homes. Some of those people do not have the best intentions.
That is very wise. I myself have actually had dealings with your people. I helped a small village deal with some of those ill-intentioned dwellers of the lake. Myself and my companions are actually looking for passage to Zarek lands, if you believe we would be welcome in these troubling times.
Do you know how to use that sword?
Very well.
And your companions, how many? And do they
7.
know how to use their weapons?
7 companions, each as very competent warriors. Also, 2 medics. And a meerkat, which I hope will not cause any problems.
No. Bring your group to me. We will talk when I can see everyone involved. Is that
Very
fair?
Well. I will gather them as soon as I can.
She nods and carries on talking with her crew.
I will go back to find Elindra and see whether Askara and Steel have returned.
I'd say they probably have already. You probably all come back to Elindra around the same time. Elindra, the previous auction is still going on. These things take.
That was sort of part of Elindra's thinking, was that she thought it might be a while before the right kind of thing came up. So, oh, hello.
I think I may have had some luck.
Okay.
I found a group of Zarek traveling back to their homelands, looking for protection, more or less.
Favorable rates for sellswords?
A price has not been mentioned yet. I suspect price may depend on how impressed they are. They asked to see us all before further discussions were had.
Okay. That sounds more promising than just standing in the auction.
Yeah, sounds like it could be ideal. We've found something that might be slightly better than the auction. Some buyers traveling, they say they'd take us all for $35.
It's starter at least. I would rather spend it here than on the other side of than try to spend it on the other side of the lake. So
Yeah.
okay.
Maybe they're planning to leave tonight though, so maybe we meet these Zarek and see what it would be maybe better if the price is good.
Two good options. Sounds good to me. Let's go see what the Zareks have to offer.
Okay. The group of you wander over to the Zareks, who are relatively nearby. The captain, who proceeds to introduce herself as Kadra, steps forward and kind of like all the Zareks kind of very much kind of take a look at you all in a very frank and assessing way. One of them kind of like steps round to the back of Steo and sort of basically starts like examining your armor. Not they've clearly seen plate armor before, and certainly, I mean, lots of clans have kind of plate armor or equivalent of it. But he's kind of basically checking that you've put it on right, and that it's well, kind of like hanging off you.
Steve's definitely in the amused spectrum for this rather than the offended spectrum.
Sure. Arendar, you have encountered Zareks before, and you are, I mean, other people may have. Askaraimer certainly has. The Zareks are fairly forthright and direct. They kind of don't believe, they kind of live on quite a subsistence existence. A lot of hunter-gatherers, a lot of kind of like, they kind of very much living directly off the land day to day. They don't have time for, wasting their time on pleasantries. But this also gives them a certain kind of like bluff, pleasant friendliness as well, because the Zareks have long learned, being sandwiched between the clansfolk of the forest and the clansfolk of the plains, that the best way to survive is to get along with everyone. They kind of look around and examine you all, and a couple of them lean in and whisper something to the captain, who says, "You seem impressively well equipped. Are those lindworm scales?"
Yeah, indeed, for better or worse.
Did you kill it yourself?
Not this one.
But you've killed a lindworm. I mean, you've certainly participated.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
That's what I was going to say. Yes.
Blow. I think
Maybe
Elindra
two.
struck the killing blow.
For the purposes of the conversation, Elindra is entirely happy for Ascarai to take
Sure.
the credit, though.
Yeah, I can't remember. It was honestly in my head. It was one of three things. It was either Ascarai fired an arrow into its eye as the killing blow, or I seem to remember Elindra or Steel kind of ramming into the side of it with like their large, like I don't know.
Yeah, we would like it was definitely a group effort in that respect.
Yeah, you all killed the lindworm.
I don't think it's going to help the show of strength to be like, that was all of us actually. Like,
Well, we had to work together to bring that one down.
with the power of
With the
teamwork.
power of friendship.
This is becoming a very different game. She nods and says, "Well, as I say, we do not trust the safety of the open waters. Normally we would travel along the shore, but we're more willing to risk direct travel to save time if we could hire extra blades against the threat of piracy, animals, other dangers." You are going to the northwest as well. Why?
There's no sense in trying to hide this.
I'd love for Elindra to say that out loud.
I think she kind of does, and then it's just like our ultimate destination is Yefferon Isle. We've been told that we should get directions from the Zarek on the west bank and approach it from the west. So first we need to get to the west bank.
The Zareks all kind of look at each other. We can take you to a village that can show you the way to the Isle. You should know that traveling there is a terrible idea.
Oh, we're aware.
Yes.
We have so far had a lot of interaction with terrible ideas, and so far we've survived.
Luckily, we have some guidance from someone who has already made the mistake once. And we hope not to repeat it.
All right. Our vessel is not large and luxurious. You will be sharing space with each other and my crew. But if you wish, we will take you to the northwest, to a village that can show you the way. And in return, you help us defend our craft.
I look to the group for a general round of nods. Does anyone seem to dissent?
DeGesto is nodding, like he's not having to spend any money. He's very happy with this arrangement.
Yeah. And frankly, if there are pirates on the lake, we would have to defend ourselves, whatever.
True. We accept your terms gratefully, Captain.
She nods and kind of holds her arm out. And she's kind of seems kind of like she's replicating something she's seen rather than like anything she's overly familiar with herself.
I will take her arm in an Ambrian handshake, which we've agreed is like the forearm grasp. And then can I also give her, I must have seen it when I was in the Zarek, whatever the Zarek or general Southern Tribes greeting is.
There's no general Southern Tribes greeting, but I think, like I say, the Zarek are bluffly friendly, and I am going to say that their equivalent of greeting or an agreement being made is a kind of like one-armed embrace, and kind of pressing the cheeks together, like quite a close, direct act.
Then I will accept her Ambrian handshake, and if she is willing, pull her in for a Zarek embrace.
She is willing and seems quite pleased that you knew this. She says, "Do you have to wait? We can put off now."
We would be happy to leave as soon as possible.
She gestures to her first mate, who kind of beckons for you to follow, and walks off towards the docks. And not far away, you see the Zarek's vessel. It is low and long and narrow, with only a cramped belly in which to store some cargo and sleep in wide hammocks that take several people apiece. There is both a billowing triangular sail of well-washed, spotless white, and many long poles along the side of the vessel. There are altogether about 10 crew, all of whom seem friendly enough and wear the orange, blue, and green paint that the Zarek favor. Many of them have red or strawberry blonde hair, and all of them seem somewhat unconcerned with the current troubles in Jakar, and none of them seem to have immediate concerns about impending war in the same way most of the other people in Jakar have seemed to as you've traveled through the town. They are happy to help you board now.
Yeah, I don't think we'll hang around. I suppose they'll kind of go, should we go and tell the... No, we don't really have time, do we? What do you think, Ascarai?
Nah. I mean, they particularly friendly with us. I don't feel like we really owe it to them.
All right.
I think it was a bigger boat, but it was certainly a lot more expensive.
It was
Steel
a
kind of-
much bigger boat, but yeah. You're on mute. So.
I don't know where the boats are positioned, but maybe we can shout to them on the way out of the port. Depends. If we're going
It's
past
a bit away from them, so possibly not. But before you board, can everyone give me a vigilant -5 roll, please? Chris got it?
Nope. Would you like me to roll for Anton as well?
Sure, why not?
Alindra and Ravelia both failed the "are they going to turn us into meat" roll.
You're already meat.
We're already,
We're already meat. It was
We're
the
not
meat
yet
we were
delicious.
all along.
Anton did not pass.
Okay. Steo, then, it sounds like you are the only person who, as you walk away from the auction with the Zarex and towards their vessel, you see a small shape, maybe a child or a goblin, who seems to have been watching you carry out this deal quite intently, vanish into the crowd.
Steele's paranoid enough to make the connection, so I will just kind of, as we're walking down toward the vessel, maybe just go, I think we were marked.
It can't be helped. It's done.
No. It's a fast craft. Maybe we'll outrun whatever's coming after us.
So, as you board, it's now kind of like, it's definitely the sun is sinking, sort of making its way towards the horizon. And in a surprisingly quick time, Captain Kardra orders the vessel to be untied from the pier, and it glides out onto Volgoma. There's a relative lack of wind in the kind of like slight harbor that Jakar produces, but as soon as you are, say, 40 meters or so away from the harbor, the wind starts to catch slightly in the triangular sail. The Zarek kind of lean a little less hard on those poles that are all it's like punts, right? But they're stationed along the edge of the ship, and when they're not in use, they seem to kind of just push them forward, so that the entire vessel on the side has all these like long lean poles kind of like out from the sides. And as you glide, it has to be said, very gently and fast across the surface of the water, you can feel that wind kind of picking up slightly and bringing you kind of an odd, fresh scent of the clean water of Lake Volgoma rolling over you. Definitely a difference from the kind of loamy vegetation smell of the forest that you've mostly been smelling for the last, I don't know, 3 months at least. So there we go. Is there any interactions or conversations or anything that you're having with each other as the boat leaves Jakar?
This guy's going to be looking very intently over the side to check there's no giant crabs on the bottom of the boat.
I like to think that Alindra and Ravelia and Degetta are like, what? And Arindar, everyone but Steo and Anton, who are like, yeah. Lobsters on the bottom of the boat, man.
And I don't think Alindra's ever been told that story. So
Probably not. No, maybe. I don't know.
I think Steo's going to be trying to round up maybe a small and informal watch party to kind of see if we can tell if we're obviously being tailed by any other ships that pull out shortly afterwards and set off in the same direction.
Sure. Who are you including in this?
Well, my first choice would be Ascry, but he's squid hunting, so basically everyone else.
Sure.
You're welcome to dismiss me as a paranoid old man, but he will be kind of somewhat insistent.
Alindra's been given a thing to like guard and a thing to look out for, and I think her instincts are probably quite similar to Steo's in that respect. So she will just stand at the back of the boat, just constantly looking.
Sure, absolutely. Well, do you want to give me a whoever is doing, let's not have the entire group just stood at the back of the boat watching, because that would be weird.
Just
So
the two of us.
Askarai's looking at other stuff. Let's have Alindra and Steo as the resident paranoid people stood at the back of the ship. And can you give me a vigilant roll at -5, please?
I can fail you a vigilant roll at -5.
Do it.
I just have.
Okay, that's absolutely fine. The
Double note.
sun properly starts to sink below the horizon now, and the surface of Lake Volgoma becomes a kind of sheer golden shine that's quite beautiful. Although the kind of sparseness of the water and the shores ahead of you lends a certain loneliness to it. Are you carrying on watching?
I think, yeah, Steele will turn this informal watch into a formal watch as soon as things get dark, and
Okay.
he will elect to maybe go on watch 1, and he'll probably try and drag Ascarai away from his squid fancying.
Okay. Well, why don't you give me a vigilant roll at -4 then, please? Alindra, anything?
Vigilant -4. That's a fail as well.
Okay. So the sun has now properly dipped below the horizon, and the last shreds of light are fading over it. The actual surface of Volgoma you can still kind of see it, but definitely you can see more the ripples of the wake of the ship than anything else. Are you carrying on your watch?
You've got to swap people at some stage.
I mean, this is like 10 minutes later, so like.
I mean, yeah, I'm going to stay there, but I'll try and encourage people to move around, because otherwise, Elindra, you've just volunteered for watch 0 and watch 1.
I think at this point, Askarai's probably not going to see anything below the surface of the water, so he might wander over and see what Steo and Elindra are looking at.
Sure. Well, now basically the last bits of light have dripped away from the horizon now, and you have you can only even see the surface of the water by the motions that the ship makes. You can certainly still see Jakar, the lights of Jakar, kind of in the middle distance behind you. Can everyone who's watching, give me a roll of vigilant at -3, please?
I think I've probably stepped away by this point.
Sure.
No one sees the Corsairs. It's fine.
So the lights of Jakar are fading, and there's a kind of like stillness out on the lake. Apart from on the shore, you can hear a number of kind of night birds and insects start to call in a way you're very familiar with from being in Davakar. But now it seems kind of strangely more eerie as it echoes across the surface of the water. Anyone still watching, give me a vigilant roll at -2, please.
I think I failed my
Keeping up
first
too
roll
high.
and then wandered off to find something more exciting.
Sure.
Ascarai has made the vigilant roll.
You spot one of the first things. Obviously, you've been on water before, but as I said, one of the only ways to really notice at night that there's motion on a relatively still surface as a lake is by looking for kind of like the shine on the water as it actually moves. You can see that behind the boat, and you can also see it oddly in the kind of like near distance behind the boat. It could be like some kind of creature perhaps, or another craft. And as you do so, you hear a cry in Zarek from up atop the mast. And quite quickly, the Zareks start talking to each other in their language. And Tom turns and says, "They seem to think that there's another ship out there heading in the same direction."
Told you we were marked.
The captain
ready.
kind of wanders, kind of hears you talking, and wanders over quite casually. She has kind of sort of an apple that she's kind of quite calmly peeling with a bone knife, and says, "Is there any reason you might be followed?"
Same reason why there's hundreds of Ambrians going into the forest to die. Everyone thinks they know the way to a golden city.
You have enemies?
Anyone who's been to the forest has enemies.
You could say yes.
None have managed to fell us yet, though. Steel will be checking his own armor at this point.
She kind of notes you doing that visibly. She gives a cry, and every Zarek on board dashes immediately to one of the poles. They sink them deep below the waters of Volgoma and heave. And before long, all of you are slightly struggling to stay upright on the deck because the ship leaps forward, skimming across the surface of the water. The sail is being pulled down, and before 60 seconds have passed, you are struggling to see the motion of the ship behind you on the water.
Is there anything usefully that we can do to help row punt? Like,
are you asking me or are you asking the captain?
I'm asking you. Like, are there free kind of poles?
There are free poles. Does Alindra know how to punt on a river vessel?
No.
Probably, right. So it depends whether Alindra is confident enough to think she can step in and do that.
Alindra will ask the captain, like, will this, if I sit down and take a pole, will this help or will this make it worse?
You on your own?
Others, if they want to join us.
I will join her.
The fighting hasn't started yet, so perhaps we can help with the rowing.
She seems quite amused. Try. One on each side.
Cool.
I'm basically going to go and spot Arendar because I know I'm not going to stop him from doing it, but I'm going to spot him.
Yeah, that's a good way to do it.
Sure. Okay. So, as you sit in place, you notice that the Zarek in front of you, Alindra, kind of shoots the captain a slightly reproachful glance, and she just kind of like shrugs back at him with a smile on her face. First, can both of you make a cunning roll at you've both been on a canoe. The motion of a paddle on a canoe is not completely different from this, but also definitely not the same. So I'm going to say both make a cunning roll at -4 to just know how to punt.
Can I get in on this roll as well, given I'm spotting for Aaron?
Yeah, you can actually. Yeah, you can if you're spotting. Yeah. Won't be able to help on his next roll, but yeah.
Was the ship that we
I can't remember.
Okay.
I know what you're going to say, and I can't. I like the ship that you had in Fetters of Stone, right?
Yeah.
No, that was more of a canoe.
Okay.
It wasn't a proper ship. You attacked a proper ship, but you didn't.
Yeah.
But then you set it on fire. Go watch Fetters of Stone, folks.
Spoilers.
Cunning -4, did you say?
I did say cunning -4.
No.
Okay.
We're going to start going in circles.
Alindra, you did.
I rolled a 1, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Now I want both of you to roll strength with no modifiers.
Yeah, that's a pass.
Okay. How about Arendar?
That's a fail.
Okay.
Just a fail, but a fail.
So, in a way, that's better because your pole didn't get in the way of, like, the guy punting in front of you. But essentially, what's happened, Arendar, you don't know how to move this, and you also can't move it. So, in a way, one of your problems is removed.
You've essentially just had a bit of a sit down.
Yeah. Alindra, you see that the Zarek looking kind of over his shoulder at you kind of looks a bit surprised and nods and just turns back forward again. The captain sort of leans and looks down at you and says, "Not too bad, but you should stop, or we will start to veer to the left."
Okay. I
She
stop.
basically doesn't say anything to Arundar.
I'll give Arundar a pat on the back, a voiceless pat on the back.
This boat is much more impressive than I first thought it was. Not that I thought it was unimpressive to begin with, but, you know, this is very good work.
The captain eats the last kind of shred of her apple and says, "Thank you. If you want to learn, you can be taught." She kind of like walks backwards on the deck and looks over. She calls up to whoever's on the mast, who calls back down and says, "They are gone. You are lucky you are on with us. Many ships would not be able to pull ahead as we have."
This is a fine ship and a fine crew.
Yes, it is. And they are. Well, you should get sleep. You won't be sleeping on Yefferon Isle. She wipes her bone knife off on her trousers and walks off to the front of the craft. And I think that is a good place to leave our stream, folks. Thank you very much for joining us, both players and audience. Thank you for the follow to Kotel Tankos. I don't know if that's the right intended pronunciation, but thank you regardless. A bit of promo, and then we'll get into questions and answers and all that stuff. So if you have anything to ask us or any comments, pop them in chat and we'll address them. First, look down below. There's links to YouTube, links to Twitch. You're watching this on one, please check out the other. There's links as well to our social media, our Patreon, our Discord. Those are all things you could go and things you could do, maybe. We run 3 weekly series at the moment. Mondays is Vason, Wednesdays is this, Symbaroum, and Thursdays is temporarily Cincinnati Chronicles, our World of Darkness anthology series, which comes to an end tomorrow. The saga will finally resolve itself. And then Pierre's back with Big Wet. The week after, more post-apocalyptic survival stuff. We also run one-shots, 1 or 2 a month. The next ones are 20th of August, which is Johnny returning to his space age Call of Cthulhu world. And then on the 26th, I'll be running Hell Knight, which is a Doom biker TTRPG where you basically play demon bikers in a over-the-top retro 80s horror action scenario. And that's going to be a lot of fun. So, okay, John, start throwing the old things at us.
The old things.
Steve, press the red button now if you want to watch Matt's rant about Aliens versus Predator. I mean, I can summarize it really quickly. It's shit.
That's a short rant, but a quality one.
Yeah,
That's more of a review than a summary, in fairness.
Yeah.
You know, I used to write semi-professional reviews, and that's as good as it's going to get for Alien versus Predator.
I have a slightly longer rant about Aliens versus Predator, which is it's shit.
I'm not going to debate that. I think we agree on many levels.
I don't think you guys are made out for the era of 1.5 hour in-depth video essays on YouTube about random films.
If someone does that about Alien versus Predator, they've wasted everyone's time, especially. 42. Ilindra's plan was murder villagers and use the bodies as canoes. Any comment on that, Stephen?
The first part's certainly true. I mean, I guess it depends on how well they float.
Sure.
No, it's like Ilindra's occasionally violent, but I like to think probably understands boats marginally, like well enough to use the actual canoes.
Absolutely. Next. Sam, maybe we could just buy some bears and ride them across the lake. Yeah.
I'm sure that'll go amazingly.
Yeah.
That's why it does not understand either boats or bears.
They're
More
both
of a throwing
least
spider
least
thing
of all
tonight.
boat bears. Steve, I suspected they might be huggers, presumably referring to the Zarek.
The Zarek.
Yeah, big old school Bailey fans. Am I right? Fellow Graps enthusiasts. Yeah. No one?
Yep.
Okay.
You could just start making vaguely phonomic sounding grunts, and I'd assume you were doing a reference to something obscure at this point in our knowledge of each other.
I honestly could not tell if those words were made up or not.
I mean, most
Where's
of them
all
were
the-
proper words.
Okay, but
There's all my
there were
blunting
two
sound.
words.
There were two.
in-
There were Bailey, which is a name,
okay.
and Graps, which is short for grappling, which is sometimes what wrestling fans call wrestling, the Graps, in a kind of tongue-in-cheek way.
Okay.
Bailey's a wrestler. Her character was that she liked hugging.
It was very wholesome.
She came into the ring with big, wacky, inflatable arms and tube men up around her. She would try to high-five one of them.
That actually does sound like my exact.
Oh, you would
aesthetic,
love
so I
Bailey,
appreciate it.
Chris.
Oh,
You
yeah.
would love- She doesn't have that character anymore, sadly.
Come
Anyway.
for the TTRPG Agile play. Stay for the educational, wholesome wrestling facts.
Exactly. Yeah.
I say facts.
They're facts. What I'm saying.
Wrestling
Sure,
is
Facts.
yeah,
real
let's
for
go
a
with
certain
that, sure.
quantity of real.
Yeah. Steve, this whole scenario seems designed to rinse the party of cash. That's not my intention.
We're just bad at
Oh.
this.
It certainly wasn't in the, it wasn't in the end. They managed to get free passage. So yeah.
Yeah, certainly the cost of this passage will be what you pay in friendship. Something this fell apart halfway.
And
through
let
the
me
sentence.
tell you, behind the veil here for a second, there were 3 captains you could have arranged passage with from Jakar. You've picked the best option. I'll just leave it there.
Thank God for Arendar.
Thank God for our spin-off series, Feathers of Stone. If you want to understand why Arendar was in that part of the world, why not watch all of
I'm
the
still
episodes?
super proud of Fetters of Stone. It's really good. And if anyone out there really loves the Symbaroum series but hasn't caught Fetters of Stone, because I think it's a different playlist,
Yes.
then do go check it out. It's a series we actually streamed on the Free League channel, Twitch channel, when it was active. So I guess that means it's canon, right?
Yeah.
That's how it works.
Sure, why not? Yeah, it will give you a bit more of the origins of Arendar, and it's also probably your only chance for the near future to watch, he says, realizing he's immediately about to contradict himself. It's an actual full Symbaroum story that I wrote myself, so it's not part of Throne of Thorns. So you can see if my stuff is shit, I guess. So there we go. Although Antom's interlude was also written by myself, so I immediately contradicted myself as soon as I said it. So there we go. Next,
More Fetters of Stone commentary.
you attacked a ship with a canoe. Yes, they did. That's brave.
Quite successfully.
In our defense,
You
about
won.
half the party did have a literal death wish.
And also, to be fair, especially in the historically and in the modern world, pirates and ship-borne raiders do tend to use smaller vessels than their targets. But yeah, so all you need to do is get on board, right?
It's going to be interesting to find out whether the party's previous experience with the other side of piracy is going to help on this trip.
To be fair to them, yeah, they were. The ship they were boarding was pirates.
Wait, they were pirating
pirating
a
pirates.
pirate ship.
Go watch Fetters of Stone.
Go watch Fetters of Stone. Go watch Fetters
Counter
of Stone.
pirating.
Go watch Fetters.
Double piracy.
It's like if you've got the special certificate, then you're like a privateer, right? That's how that works.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, absolutely. Sam, there's a flock of lobsters after us looking for revenge. I wouldn't put it past Symbaroum.
And also in the game.
Yeah. Look,
That's
lobsters have no grudge with me. There's one more thing I would like to bring up from the comments because it's the most poetic thing I think Steve has ever said on Aliens versus Predator, but it has Lance Henriksen in it, like a chunk of sweet corn. And I will just leave that there for your imaginations to fill out the rest of that metaphor. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. We'll be back next week with more Symbaroum. Until then, take care, stay safe. Goodbye. Goodbye.